Oops, sorry about that. I was muted. Sorry about that. Okay, once again, I should be more careful. Okay, that went a full minute without me realizing I was muted. I'm truly sorry for that. Okay, uh, but there doesn't seem to be anyone, someone watching now. Okay. Excellent. Please, as usual, please meet my co-host, Stefan. There we go. And, oops. And of course, we have our lovely Bertil. Hello. Nice to see you. Okay. So. Oh. Oh, we have Arthur Weber. Welcome. Welcome. It's been a while, good sir. It's been a good while, hasn't it? How are you doing, Arthur? I hope you're doing well today. Okay. Is there anyone else in the chat? Nope, it's just you. Hey Heidi, nice to see you again, says Arthur. As always, lovely. Okay, and today my streaming beer is Chimay. There, it's a Belgian Trappist beer. It's dark ale type, I would say, and 9% alcohol. Okay. So, how have you been, and where have you been, good sir, Arthur? It's long time no ABC. I've been thinking about you, planning when I've been planning things. Ah, a working dog. A working dog. Okay. I hope your work load has now reduced, and I hope I would love to see you see you around, perhaps on my channel. If you Now that you're here, could you go and check your Facebook inbox? You've got you have a ding ding in your inbox regarding certain future endeavors. Okay. Anyway, what the topic? This wasn't meant to be rude to Arthur, or rude or nasty to Arthur or all evening, because he doesn't deserve that. Aww. Anyway, transgender rights movement and why, or what the history there is. Not much is known regarding this issue that prior to perhaps 1912, with 1912 or so, when the a German, if I remember correctly, German surgeon and a sexologist, Magnus Hirschfeld, originally from Prussia, not Russia, but Prussia with a P as in Papa. That it is a kingdom of Prussia was a German kingdom which constituted a state of Prussia between 1701 and 1918, which would have been the after effects of World War One. Okay, but Magnus Hirschfeld was one of the first, if not the first, known surgeons or doctors who performed sex reincitement surgeries, or SRS, or as it's now called nowadays, it's called gender reassignment surgery, GRS, depending on who you ask. And he was he performed several of these surgeries, like male to female and female to male, up until he passed away in Nice, French Third Republic, in 1935. So, and that is the first really recorded case of transgender treatments, or as it was called back then, transsexual. Okay, so it's but it's a bit things that change, and certain things try to perhaps try to get upset about using certain terms in a historical context, that somehow this word transsexual it's used retroactively of the time that there was no word for, there was no such word as a transgender, which became into use only just decades later. It was in 60s, I think, turn of 50s, 60s, or in 60s, closer to the Stonewall riots, that it became a bit more used, this term transgender and transsexual, then subsided. Okay. Excuse me. I think I'll take a little moment of. Yes, hello. I had to take care of an issue, or plans regarding this Sunday. Okay. What is history of the transgender rights movement? But what is it? I think we need to define a bit more what that really is. Okay, and it's a movement whose point is to promote the legal status of transgender people in legislation. That would mean, in plain language, that would mean basically the legal recognition that there is such a thing as transgender people, that we exist in the first place. Okay, and then of course the problem is that many countries deny our existence to begin with, and I surely we've come a long way from how things were, say, in the 50s. Okay. But there is, as I said, we have good records, or somewhat good records, on what Magnus Hirschfeld did in the early in 1910s, 20s, 30s until he passed away, unfortunately. But then between about 1952-ish, there's no any true or actual or formal movement, or political movement at least, a legal movement, up until the case of Virginia Prince, who was an American male cross-dresser from the a male cross-dresser from America, and among others, she launched a what's called Transvestia, the Journal of American Society of Equality in Dress. And up until then, there was no really written or codified knowledge or written record of any sort of transgender movement, at least in the Western world. Okay. I've spoken about the Stonewall riots, and on my channel before, and I would like to go a bit further down the memory lane, if I just know how to find it. Is me a dumb? Okay. This is from a live stream, which is actually from almost to the day. It's almost to the day year ago. This is my second live stream ever. Please excuse me for the poor quality of this. I was just starting, and this is from my live stream called Stonewall and Beyond: Half a Century of Queer America, featuring special guest, and she's of course lovely Susan Brewer. Okay, let me know if you have the sound. Okay. Where do we? Excuse me, I changed the order of my Stream Deck buttons. Okay, here we go. Good day wherever you are. Thanks for joining me tonight. Tonight's topic will be Stonewall and Beyond: Half a Century of Queer America, and we'll go over somewhat briefly.
Okay. In his opinion, love doesn't recognize, and I was open with about my sexuality right off the bat, within a few days after our meeting, and he was totally cool with it.
And here
in his opinion.
And this is talking about her husband when she came out. Susan is a wonderful lady. Okay.
Okay.
And that is a point here. And this
in my environment.
What I was saying, that terminology updates.
Kind of family where if you don't talk about it, then it doesn't exist. So what tiny bit I knew about Stonewall was that, and I can speak frankly, right?
Yeah, off you go.
Okay, what little bit I did know about Stonewall was a bunch of queers in New York went nuts and had a big riot, and there was loads of violence. And the general attitude in my environment, and I want everyone to know that I'm speaking strictly from personal experience, okay?
And that is a point here.
And
Yes. So this is how it was described by Susan Brewer. Anyway, there was there were riots, all right, and there were the next recording I found was from when Virginia Prince started the journal in '52. The next I could find were an early on riot known as Cooper Donut Riots of 1959 in downtown LA, because even there, the police had been harassing the LGBTQ people, where then gender trans people and gender non-conforming started riots, and this then led to Compton cafeteria riots, where it was a riot again, and this had to do with a lot of with LGBT plus movement, but more with trans people. Okay, and that was similar to the Cooper Donuts. Was that drag queens, prostitutes, and trans people fought back to police violence, and this then we'll get back, and we'll get on to the 1969 Stonewall riots. Okay, the term transgender wasn't in use at this point in time. Okay, so it wasn't something that they would talk about. And as Susan said, a bunch of queers started fighting. It was queer was the general term used for this type of, for trans people, basically, also. And the Stonewall riots were the ones who sparked the Stonewall riots as well, back in '69. And by the way, if there are any viewers who wish to ask questions, please do. Okay. I do hope that someone actually watches this video today. Okay, because I would love to know that someone actually does watch these things. Okay, and at that time the names that arose was Storme de Larverie and a Marsha P. Johnson, who self-identified as street queen. I'm not sure what that implies exactly, but I would assume that it has something to do with sex work, etc., and drag queens. Okay. and the ones that actually started the riots, or sparked, or the few people that actually started fighting back were trans women of color, who were also sex workers, and many of these names who then came up arose from these events were the ones that then founded the Gay Liberation Front, and it's widely accepted fact, I would say, that it was the Storme de la Larverie, the drag king, who actually then started the scaffold as a struggle in the Stonewall Inn. Okay, and then when it comes to Marsha P. Johnson, who was a black transgender woman of color and a drag queen, went on to co-found what was called Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, with Sylvia Rivera, who was actually Sylvia Rivera became a very famous and iconic figure, at least at the time, when it comes to trans and transgender and transvestite human rights movement. Sylvia Rivera was an American gay liberation and trans human rights activist, who was there around Stonewall riots at the time in '69. And Rivera's, however, defined trans quite broadly, to include all gender non-conforming people, which others, like for example myself, do not necessarily agree with, because not all gender non-conforming people are transgender, but they are perhaps non-binary and genderqueer as such. Okay, and by the male to female, or MTF, transgender transvestite people were had become known by the 70s, by the early 70s at latest, but it took another 15 to 20 years up until the 80s and late 80s for the FTM, or the female to male to transgender, female to male transgender identity to become more widely known. Please let me know. Is actually anyone watching this live, at least? Nope. Anyway, I hope that there are people watching this afterwards. Okay, and there was an American butch lesbian called Leslie Feinberg. She was also an author and she wrote a book called Stone Butch Blues, which was sort of not gender non-conforming and trans literature, if you will. and she also circulated a pamphlet titled Transgender Liberation, and a movement whose time has come. It began by calling on the trans community to basically get their shit together, like their definitions. For example, that I mentioned Silvia Rivera using very broad definition of what is transgender. Okay, and she and Feinberg invoked language because language as a tool would be to unite, as means to unite people under oppression in this way. It and then she went on to draw quite interesting conclusions, and as to that it as to who imposed this this sort of threat or oppression, shall we say. And she went on to claim that it was used by the ruling that is the ruling class using institutions, and she is very correct in that way, or in that sense, that it's often in the hands of the institutions. It's a lot of the oppression, etc., is institutional. It's in the system. It's in the system that and it requires a change in the thinking of those who keep up the system, because it's in the many laws that have been written by those who are not necessarily, and by those and at the times that weren't exactly LGBTQ plus friendly. So it's not. It will take in many places a long time, and we've come through a long way. Okay, and I hope I would be getting someone up here at some point before I go. I get all my stuff done here. Okay, and it's what much has to do with the gender binary, which Feinberg was someone who could actually really talk about it, because she was quite butch. She was a butch lesbian, very masculine, and I wouldn't be too surprised if she hadn't been mistaken for a man, because especially at the time. Okay, so I'll get you. Okay, I'll get you the okay. So it's okay. She get me. Okay. Here, if that is not someone who could be mistaken for a guy, but so anyway, but I really look this live stream with Susan. Oh my god, my channel misses her dearly. Luckily, I'm able to have a chat with her, text chats, texting back and forth here and there. Okay, with that, not the lady. Okay, what do I have? Okay. Yes. Arthur, if you're still there, please let me know. Let me know if you're still watching. It says 0 viewers. And what Leslie Feinberg really wished to, one of what she concluded in her writing, that the marginalized groups should get their forces together, and in doing so, I think she really hit the point. Okay, and in the 90s, there's a term called transvesti in Latin American countries, especially in the South America, that took off for example, in Argentina, which had a some very broad LGBT movement, and there were Latin American trans activists like Adela Vasquez, a transgender woman who was protested in San Francisco in consideration of the government removing the transgender community from the workforce because they labeled the trans community as disabled. And this is one big problem, because we are not sick, we are not disabled. Being trans doesn't make us inherently sick and disabled. It did take a step forward, and is still going forward in the US. Fortunately, there's what's called the Nation Gay and Lesbian Task Force, that only 17 reported that only 17 states. It has gone forward, but not much. But luckily, at least some. Okay. That only 17 states and the District of Columbia in the United States of America have laws that protect individuals in transgender community, which equals to 45%, to about 45% of trans people, apparently. And there are the very few that actually present, and this is why this is important. It's because it's one process in the transgender equality movement. Okay, and there are, as I said, as of 2014, this, as I understand it, has changed, fortunately. Okay, and there was a trans man murdered in 1993 in Nebraska, which was, I think, many of you have probably seen the film Boys Don't Cry with Hilary Swank as Brandon Tina. I highly suggest that film, but I should note that there's a loads and loads of violence, and it could be and homophobic slurs and homo and transphobic slurs, etc., etc. So if you're sensitive to that kind of stuff, please please reconsider watching that. But I highly recommend. And there is, as I said previously, I made a live stream about Transgender Day of Remembrance, which, as I said, was put forth by a transgender advocate named Gwendolyn Ann Smith, which was first held in 1999, following a 1998 murder of Rita Hester, a friend of Gwendolyn Ann Smith's. So it was pretty much in memory of her late friend, and it started as a web project in 1999. The web project was named Remembering Our Dead, which it still just it still gives me the goosebumps. Yeah? That we still, even though we got equal rights, even if trans people got equal rights, it's my firm opinion that we still need to the November 20th, because we still really need to remember the past and why we have these rights now. And we need to remember the Stonewall, and we need to remember to commemorate the Transgender Day of Remembrance. I will be making a live stream about on November 20th. There will be a live stream where I'll read the names again, like last year. Okay, well, let's go on. I'm sorry, this shitty soundboard. Okay. Okay. So the next I'll mention is 2020, when CC McDonald, she's an American, an African American trans woman who's also an LGBTQ activist, okay, who was wrongfully imprisoned in June 2012 for when she defended herself with a pair of scissors against a neo-Nazi fuckers who tried to attack her, or did, which resulted in the death of one of the assailants, which is a pity, really. Why the Fudge Monkey. Okay, who do we have watching? Don't know. Make yourself known, whoever is watching. Okay, so. And yeah. And got 40. And she got 41 months in jail for second-degree manslaughter of the man who died in the. Oh, Peter, hello. How much you be doing, good sir? It's quite early in the morning for you, is it? It's 6:45 or so for you to this fine day, I would assume. Okay, excellent. And her story was published. She wrote it down, everything, and she won or was awarded a GLAAD Media Award, and it's a LGBT plus award for written articles. In this was in ebony.com. And there's a lovely lady called Laverne Cox. No pun intended. She is an openly. Many of you probably know who she is. She is an actress who became very well known from the series called Orange is the New Black. So it's I've seen this. I've watched some of the series, and it's like queer AF. And actually, my mom convinced me to watch it. Why? Because it's queer. It's queer stuff. You're my girl. You are queer. You must watch queer stuff from the telly. That's how some mums are. It was horrible. When Laverne Cox then launched a campaign to raise awareness of the horrible prison conditions they had, or CC had at when she had to go to to prison. She was there. Well, let's say she had tough times. Okay, it was horrible. And CC was released after 19 months, which is good. That because at least some justice was served. Okay. Ah, there's another one watching. Please make yourself known. And pizza. The beer I'm having today is Chimay. It's a Belgian Trappist beer, 9%. Okay. Then there was the case of marriage equality that came up in a Supreme Court case in 2013 in the U.S. Federal Supreme Court, that is. Then there's been this horrible legislation in the U.S. Regarding the toilets and sports, etc., which I've been through. I've been through. on my channel on a number of occasions. Okay, so anyway, at this point, if you have not already, please like and subscribe. It's thumbs up, a thumbs down, I don't care which one it is, and like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notifications of the content such as this in the future. Okay, even those who are my subscribers, just thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe and like. And at this point, before I go further, I would like to talk a bit about what is happening with my channel. What is happening with my channel, you may ask? Well, Sunday will host the very first anniversary live stream on my channel, where it starts on Sunday 6 p.m. UK time, which is then 8 p.m. Eastern European, and which would then be probably about midnight. No, sorry, it's the wee hours of the morning for you, Peter, in the land down under. And I would like to remind you, or actually announce, not remind you because I haven't actually spoken about this before. So you may have noticed that if you've checked the description box below, if you haven't, well, shame on you. Please check the links. The description box, you'll see that you'll find a PayPal link. I've opened a PayPal for my channel, and there will be a surprise announcement regarding the evolution of this channel in the live stream, my first anniversary live stream. I'll announce. I'll make an announcement regarding the future of this channel, but there is the PayPal link. You can click that, and if you wish, and if you want, you can go click that link and go and give me a dime for my work. It's of course completely voluntary. You don't have to, but if you do, I will be very, very grateful, and I will love you. Aww. Even more. Love you already, but I'll love you even more. Okay, so okay, as I have mentioned, there's been the toilet legislation. There's the sports issue. There's healthcare issues. The access to equal access to healthcare for trans people. The right to pee in the correct toilet. What the fuck is such a big deal that you can't let people pee? I mean, why is it such a huge deal to be a massive cunt over someone peeing in a certain room or in a certain toilet? I mean, come on. And this has been an issue worldwide, not just the US, not just the US, but elsewhere as well. For example, Canada, down under, Kiwiland, and then there's of course the even there's poverty. There are social issues, there are racial issues that still are awaiting to be attended to, and there's a, as I've mentioned, gone through here tonight. There's there's at least a century old history with all this, and with this transgender rights movement, and there's actually even another. I hope there won't be another century. I truly hope so, but there might be. Who knows? Okay. And by the way, I'm shilling. Oops. Simon Dan. I'm a Simon Dan fangirl. Simon Dan, if you don't know who he is, go check him out. I'm a fangirl. Okay, but there is, for example, there's still progress, even though it's typically the typically the view that religion makes everything backwards, but there has been kudos to them, because in 2015 the Union for Reform Judaism in the American Union for Reform Judaism adopted something called a resolution on the rights of transgender and gender non-conforming people, by which they were urging the clergy and synagogue attendants to actively promote tolerance and inclusion of such individuals. So maybe religion might not always be inherently evil or in the wrong, shall we say. And there have been all kinds of famous people in the history of the activism or the movement, like Renee Richards, who sued the U.S. Open to be able to play as a woman after her sex reincitement surgery. So that's a big fuck you to the sports. So this would have been in 1976, which is quite early for such representation or such court cases. And there have been plenty of representation in the media. In media, for example, Laverne Cox, whom I already mentioned, and Janet Mock, who's an author and a TV show host. Okay, and then there are plenty of notable political figures. For example, Amanda Simpson, who's or at least was the U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Operational Energy, and the highest-ranking openly transgender appointee in the United States. And all kinds of things. For example, Kim Koko Iwamoto, Hawaii's Civil Rights Commissioner, used to be in the Board of Education, etc. And Nikki Sinclair, who's a British former member of the European Parliament. All kinds of high-ranking trans people on this list. Anyway, do you, honey darlings, do you have any questions? Questions as of right now regarding this subject, or anything, all the features, or my channel, or myself, perhaps? Because I figured if not, I think I'll be going in a moment. So unless there's something, questions, comments, etc., please write in the chat while I'm gone. Okay. Are we still live? We are live, it seems. Because my counter here is stuck. The counter on my ticker, my streaming software. I use Streamlabs OBS, and it seems to be frozen at 59 minutes and 46 seconds. Okay, I think it's time to go. When even YouTube thing is okay, I think. Okay, I will see you on Sunday then. My first anniversary live stream, starting 6 p.m. UK. I hope you like this live stream, what I talked about, and I will see you on Sunday. Check all the links in the description down below if you haven't already. So, bye. See you on Sunday.